Two and One. Welcome back, faithful listeners, to the Media Files podcast. Today it is just me again. We are trying to get back together, trying to just post something every week at least, even if it is just a topic or one of us doing gameplay. We will at least consistently post something, even if it's a topic we've discussed over and over. That's one thing I will note for some of the podcasts or people that I listen to and follow, that a lot of times, if you guys have ever watched watchmojo.com, I don't know if they have like Miss Mojo, top 10s and all these other like branching channels. And the reason why they did that was because the viewer count for their main one was just kind of and a lot of that is due to, we will say that consistency is important. However, too much of it is a bad thing. Imagine being a YouTuber that is dead set to posting every single day for an entire year. That is an admirable goal. Do not get me wrong. However, when it comes to channels that discuss certain things or kind of put things in a tier list, just like Top 10 or Watch Mojo, you kind of repeat some things. Like I remember one of the last videos I watched, which was some years ago, was like top 10 Watch Mojo videos. And I'm like, when you are literally using your own content in order to rank stuff, you're basically done. So I unsubscribed from that channel right there, then and there, and I've never been back. Like, I think every now and then YouTube will be like, hey, remember them? And I'm like, yes, I do. And I don't want to endure that pain anymore. So if you guys remember Watch Mojo, if you're still subscribed to Watch Mojo, why are you still subscribed to them? And again, it's everyone's own prerogative as to what they listen to, what they watch. Do what you do. My thing is, when it comes to certain things like, I'm going to post a new top 10 list every single day, it gets kind of dry and boring after a while. Like, there's another channel I follow called Game Ranks, and they try to post every single day. And again, it's not that I'm not interested in what they're talking about or what they're posting, but 9 times out of 10 I will only watch one video out of the week, because the other ones are just like, oh, this happened in the gaming news and I probably have already seen it, or something I don't care about. So again, it's kind of like the whole idea of posting every day is cool, but you run out of ideas very quickly when you try to do that every single day. I think a more realistic goal is either once a week or a couple of times a month. We can guarantee you guys we will post something at least once a week. At least we can at least promise that. Even if it's just a solo episode or one of us just hopping on and ranting for like a couple of hours, that is probably more entertaining than a channel that only posts like every blue moon. So yeah. So today is another solo episode. The next one hopefully should be something that we do together. We are planning on finishing the Backrooms game, even though Halloween is over. It is a fun game. It is one of the few games that we play together that we are eager to finish, because we've played Destiny 2 together. We were, it was kind of like that high of, it's a new game for us. We're playing it. We're having a lot of fun, but that kind of fizzled out. We've even tried playing me and Venom have tried playing Apex. It wasn't for me. We even tried playing, what's that game? It's a mining game. Like you play, I think like dwarves or something, I think. Like mythical dwarves, and you like go to different planets and mine and do stuff like that. I can't remember. It'll come to me later, maybe. I can check Steam right now, but I don't feel like it. But it's kind of hard to find something that we're all going to have fun playing. So hopefully that will be the next episode or the next recording that we do. If not, it will be like either a reaction or just a topic. We'll do topic videos too, because we don't want the podcast to feel left out. Because again, whatever we do, like anything visually, like this is visual that you're seeing right now. This is wallpaper engine again, But for them, It's more so like what I'm saying. I don't necessarily have to show you what I'm looking at. I can post this on a podcast or post this on YouTube and it'll be fine on either platform. So today, again, I do like anime topics. So I pulled something up and I was trying to figure out what a good topic would be. And this, well, is a like a video with a bunch of anime topics, which I'll probably use in the future. But here is an interesting one for me. The middle one. Skip non-canon episodes. And the two examples they have specifically are Naruto Shippuden, and I always feel like I'm saying that wrong. Just Naruto 2, not Boruto, Naruto Act 2 or whatever. Naruto Shippuden and then One Piece. But the image they're using is the Gold movie, which is interesting. But I digress. Hold on, let me move that over here. So skip non-canon episodes. I have my thoughts, so I'm just going to give kind of my take on this and kind of my reasoning behind it. But I think that when people think of non-canon, a lot of people tend to imagine like slice of life kind of episodes, because slice of life animes are interesting to me. Like, I feel like that's such an interesting and weird genre. It's almost like they're just normal people. It's almost like watching dramas, like those real life soap operas. It's like you're watching someone else live their life, but it's, exaggerated to, to a degree to where it's like, okay, this is real life, but I can relate to it on that point, but everything else that's happening is more interesting than my life. So I'm able to at least insert myself, kind of in the situation. Like, oh, this is a family, and all this other stuff. They got kids, I got kids, and all that other good stuff. But ultimately, the type of stuff that happens probably would never happen in real life. The same with slice of life anime. And a lot of people will like say, oh, they use that for like certain episodes, like in Dragon Ball Z. That's kind of one of those things they like to, say like, oh, if it's like a episode, like, someone's birthday or they're having a party, that's a slice of life because it deviates from the typical formula of what the episodes are, which I think is kind of, I'm not saying they're not wrong, but I don't think you need to necessarily label those episodes as that. It's just, this is their lives without danger. You get what I'm saying? Like, do we need to label Dragon Ball Z episodes where they're just like, you know what? Hey, we're just chilling. There's no immediate threat to the earth. We're just living life. You don't have to call that a slice of life. That's just them living their lives when there's no danger. And when danger shows up, they, respond. It's kind of like that. I only reserve slice of life for anime that are literally slice of life. As in, it is centered around realism with heightened drama and conflict. So I think a good example for me is Toradora. That is one of my favorite like romance slice of life anime because it is, I don't know, it's just really good and it's short. Like, you can finish it in a day if you wanted to. There's no 200 episodes. There's no filler. It's like every episode serves a purpose. And I think that's kind of where this whole idea of, do you need to watch filler episodes in order to, do you need to watch it in order to get the big picture? Because a lot of times with anime fans and movie fans, they're like, and I kind of touched on this in the previous episode, but when I talked about like having an opinion on an anime or a manga, the person who has actually read it or has seen it to at least a point beyond other people has a better like viewpoint or perspective on the material. And I use the example of Fairy Tail. Like, the boys do not like Fairy Tail. But, I'll ask, like, why? Like, you can, trust me, you can dislike whatever you want. You can like whatever you want. It's fine with me. But my thing is, if you dislike something, have a legit reason. As in, if you're like, okay, I don't like Fairy Tail because Natsu seems too overpowered. Like it's almost like he doesn't even fit in that world. And I'm like, okay, but they explain that later on. And then somebody will be like, oh, I didn't know. You didn't know because you didn't watch it all the way through. And I think that's also kind of the same thing with Fairy Tale. Like there are non-filler, there's filler arcs and, some filler episodes as well. Like some things like filler, I like to equate it to if you took it out of the series, it would not affect anything at all. And I think a good example for me is Naruto Shippuden, because Naruto has so much filler. Like there was one season where it was like it was like power something, like friendship power. It was something. And I remember hating it because I was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever watched in my life. This has no substance, no like character, nothing to the main story. Now, don't get me wrong. Naruto, the original, also had, before Shippuden, it also had its filler episodes. And the one I remember specifically was the Curry of Life. And the filler kind of came more so after the Sasuke retrieval arc. And I feel that even though the filler wasn't necessarily needed, it served a purpose. It served the purpose of building relationships between Naruto and the other ninja who are his age. Because every episode was centered around Naruto taking on a mission with someone else. Taking on a mission with someone other than Sakura, taking on a mission, with someone other than Kakashi. It's like Naruto being tagged on to these other groups and seeing how they work in the dynamic and all that good stuff. So I feel like in that sense, that filler can be excused. You can skip it, but it does attempt to build those relationships between the main character and the background characters. That is a genuine purpose. That is a genuine use of time and the characters that you have, versus some type of like just creating a literal storyline that has no bearing on the story itself. And a lot of times people will point to, oh, but it explores another ninja land or whatever. So it's like, oh, you go to the village of the clouds, village hidden in the clouds. And it's like, well, now we get to see other villages and stuff like that. And it's attempting to world build. There is nothing wrong with that, but there is a way to do it. Here's how I see it. The other image you saw up there was One Piece. And a lot of times people will say that One Piece has a lot of filler. And I can agree with that to some extent. Because again, just like how I said with the Naruto stuff, the filler in pre-Naruto served the purpose of trying to build those relationships. Because it would be weird if it was like everybody was like, oh, hey, we like you, Naruto, when they haven't really spent much time together. You know what I'm saying? Like pre-Naruto, like pre-Shippuden, it was Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura the whole time. The only times they really interacted with other ninja was when, like the village hidden in the sand attacked the village hidden in the leaf. I don't even know why I'm saying the whole thing. Just say Leaf Village and Sand Village. But you get my point. Like his interactions were purely for mission purposes. Even though those can kind of build that, is again where people will say, where's the element outside of danger? Because do they always have to be in danger in order to build relationships? No, they don't. So that's kind of the deal here. It's like they need to build those relationships outside of that because it doesn't feel genuine and it doesn't feel realistic to us. Because we're not out there as shinobi throwing kunai and fighting wars to save our village from the scourge of the hidden sound village. No, when they're not on missions, what do? That's what people would be interested in. And those are the moments where you can use that time to build up those relationships and connections. Now with One Piece, and I think in one filler arc, quote unquote, in particular, there are a couple that I feel like that could have been taken out, but they still serve somewhat of a purpose in terms of the story itself. Now, in Naruto's world is kind of built on there's this massive landmass that is, divided up into different parts. We don't know how big the world is or how much of the world are shinobi, know how to use chakra and all the other good stuff. But the idea is that there are the villages. Those are the only parts of the story that matter. And minus the big villages, there are small villages kind of, spread out. And I think like one was the village of rice paddies or something. There were quite a few. Now, there's nothing wrong with building the world like with those filler episodes, because ultimately we don't really care about those smaller villages unless they serve a purpose for the greater good. I.e., if they had a filler episode where they went to, this is just an example, they went to a small village, in the same, well, it's always hard to like remember which tail beast came from like which one, except for the main ones that and see throughout the whole thing. But that is a problem that could have been fixed, because we know Killer B is from, we know what village he's from. We know what village Naruto is from. We know what village Gaara is from. But the other tail beasts are kind of like they only showed up at the end, or like as Shippuden was introduced and only kind of like lightly explored. But what if Naruto had visited those villages when he was younger and kind of met those guys early on? That would build more towards the end result versus, oh, they're from this village, but there's no context, there's no feeling, there's no emotion. But in One Piece's case, the world is vast. And this is one of my biggest gripes with people in One Piece. I love One Piece. One Piece is one of my favorite animes of all time. I have my gripes with it, don't get me wrong, like the length and certain things like filler and certain characters I don't like. I have my gripes. But One Piece is a world. As in, they have to build it slowly. It's almost like I always equate it to this. One Piece is almost as if you set out on your own journey on a boat and you just rode throughout the seas. You stop somewhere, you're like, wow, what is this place? You're like trying to figure it out, what's going on. You get involved with some stuff, and then you're like, okay, I think we've done everything we can. You hop back in your boat, and then you go somewhere else. It's almost like when you go on vacation, too. If you take a cross-country trip, you stop in various places, see what they got, see what you like, see what you don't like. You grab souvenirs, and then you go on your merry little way. Because the major arcs are like when there's this large conflict that involves them with the country itself. But the smaller islands are like, okay, there's more to the world than these major islands. Now, again, the length of One Piece is a good thing and also a bad thing. Just like I said with Dragon Ball. The length of Dragon Ball has been dragged on way longer than I think it should have been. People can debate, oh, it should have ended with the Cell Saga. It should have ended with the Boo Saga. It should have ended with GT. It should have ended with Super. And now we have Dragon Ball Daima. Just so you know, I'm not watching it. I'm not spending any time watching it because it is bittersweet for me. It is great. Like, okay, it's something new. But at the same time, Akira Toriyama isn't here. Like, I'm of the sober mind, or I'm of the thought process that if the creator's not around, like, just let it end. Like, let it rest with the creator. And my problem with that is Dragon Ball will never end if that's the case. Like, everybody's excited, like, yeah, Dragon Ball forever. You don't want Dragon Ball Z forever. Give other series a chance. Because there's going to come a point where Dragon Ball Z being the headliner is not going to be enough. Because one debate that we're always hearing about is like, oh, the big three from back in the day or whatever. And Even now, people are still trying to find the next or the current big three. And they're always doing that. Like they're always trying to find these the giants of the manga, the manga world. And there's nothing wrong with that. It just kind of signifies which ones are the most popular. And One Piece sits on that list for me always, mainly because again, it is a journey. Just like through life, you will go through changes and, learn new things and all that. One Piece is a journey. Dragon Ball Z is a journey too. It was just expedited. The world was not meant to be built up as big as One Piece. And just like with others, like with Bleach, let's just hit the nail on the head. Bleach also had filler episodes too. None of those I really watched. Like I think they had that one where it was like they went to hell or something. No, that was a movie. It was like one where like these like how Cone is like a stuffed animal. There were more stuffed animals, but I didn't care about that filler that much. Like, yeah, it was just bad. But anywho, yeah. So the essence of the anime is what makes filler work or not work, because the filler in One Piece does add to the overall story. The story of One Piece is exploration. The story of Dragon Ball Z is fighting, training, and being the strongest. Exploration was the essence of Dragon Ball. Once it crossed the threshold of Dragon Ball Z, it always became who is going to be the strongest fighter. Because if there's someone stronger, they're going to throw hands. That's just how it is. Right? That is what we know Dragon Ball Z for. We don't know Dragon Ball Z for the massive lore or the world building. It was never that. World building was done in Dragon Ball. All that stuff was established. West City, East City, all that stuff was established. And then they added the, heaven and all that, the other world. And then the Supreme Kai's planet and, all that stuff. We always knew there was a demon world. That wasn't anything new. But long story short, the whole premise for Dragon Ball Z is fighting. It is fighting. It is not exploration. Now, the introduction of new places is good, like when we went to Planet Namek. But there was really nothing as noteworthy to say for Planet Namek other than there are Namekians. Piccolo is a Namekian. There's really nothing interesting on Namekia, not why I say Namekia, on Namek. Because it's just this, when I look at it, it's like this, it is the perfect battleground. You get what I'm saying? Like how when Goku was fighting Vegeta in the wasteland, it's like rocks and dead and there's nothing really getting in your way. That's how Namek feels. And that's how the Cell Saga fought when they were fighting at the Cell Arena. It was like there's plenty of space to throw hands. There's no use in building up the story when this area is going to get destroyed. You catch my drift? So the storytelling for Dragon Ball is less about the world and more about the characters. Because the characters are who you're invested in, not the world. Because let's be honest, if you lived in a world where you could literally die right then and there from superpowered individuals who are just training and fighting and, the greatest threat could come and happen at any moment, that doesn't sound a good place to me. There's literal dinosaurs. There are demons that can escape and lay waste to the earth. Like there's literally a pink bubblegum Kirby looking, turning people into candy and just eating them. That doesn't sound like a world I would want to be in. I'm going to be honest with you. So instead of the world, you focus on the characters themselves. You get what I'm saying? The focus of an anime can only be one or two things. It is either the characters or the world. Now, what I mean by that, I'm going to use two examples. So we got Hunter x Hunter, and I'll equate it to, let's say, Muyo and Roji. Now, you guys may not have heard of that or watched it, but if you have, you're my best friend. But for Hunter x Hunter, I feel like I there is a good blend of trying to introduce the world and the characters, but the overall arcing story or the driving force of Hunter x Hunter is exploration. Just like with One Piece, as in, you are not going to be in the same place for long. But character wise, I feel like it's a little bit on the weak side because I'm going to be honest, I hate Gon. Like, Gon is like my least favorite character out of all of them. He's immature, and you're like, oh, he's a kid. Well, but you also have Killua, who's the same age, Kurapika, who's roughly the same age. Like, you have other examples of individuals around him who are more mature and who are more interesting than him. I'm just being honest. But even with them, it's kind of like, okay, Killua is he's an assassin. And the growth for him is, I don't want to be tied down to just what my family does. Okay, that's a good story arc that kind of resolves itself very quickly, might I add. But again, and then it's like you have a sibling who can basically do anything and everything just as long as someone's willing to pay the price. That's pretty overpowered. But I digress. Anywho, I watch Hunter x Hunter more so for the world and the power system and the exploration. I don't really like Gon. I like Killua pretty. Killua's probably my favorite character out of that whole show. Kurapika is very interesting. Gon's dad is a prick. I don't really like him. And any other adult that they kind of introduce are kind of like, why? A lot of the adult characters I don't like in that show. I don't know why. But characters I don't really favor that much, but the world and power system is pretty interesting. Even if there are a lot of plot holes, like how can you create an entire video game and confine it to a single island or whatever. But yeah, I digress with that. Now with Muyo and Roji, the world is interesting, but it's more so on the characters themselves. Because we're following the life of Muyo, who is this young genius who's, the greatest supernatural lawyer ever. But you're also learning more about who he is and where his origins are and what drives him. And then you have Roji, who's kind of like the opposite of him, but you're also kind of seeing him grow up as a person. Now, the world is interesting, but they don't go to too many places. Like, literally, it's his office, maybe some school or subway, the bureau where all the other people gather, and then some other places. You're not really interested in the world because it doesn't do much for you, but you're more interested in the characters and what they do, because the characters are also it's the protagonist and the antagonist. So the villains also kind of capture your interest. Cool. Another good example is Zatch Bell. Zatch Bell is another favorite of mine. But you're more interested in the characters versus the world, because you assume that the world is like ours, but the characters are not of our world. So you're more invested in what they are and how they act and what they do. And the way they do that is by erasing Zatch Bell's memory. So you're discovering who he is along with him, which is a good way of doing that. That's a good method of storytelling. Now with One Piece, again, the whole point is the exploration. You can love the characters because they're growing up and you're seeing them mature in more ways than one. As in one part, they're like kids and everything is so bright. There was such a vast difference between, when they were in the beginning of the story versus where they are now, where it's the themes are a lot more mature, the stakes are a lot higher. Okay, for instance, in the first part, there's the Arlong series or the Arlong saga, where it's okay, it is just Nami's hometown that is in immediate danger. If Arlong went against the Navy, Like he wouldn't stand a chance. Like we see how in the East Blue, they're, like they don't stand a chance against anyone in any of the other seas. Like there's this idea that in different environments they have greater chances to grow and are, vastly shown that. But in that art, it's more so like, okay, it's personal because it is one of the crew members. The first arc or the first part was to establish those people and build them up over time. The second part is like, okay, we're mature or we're maturing and we're seeing how the adult world works. It's just like with us. And I think that's another reason why I enjoy One Piece is because it's like, okay, I'm a child, so I'm growing up with children. But as I enter the grown-up world, the things that I enjoy as a kid, I still do. But there are other aspects to life that I also have to take into consideration, i.e., politics, i.e., like work life, i.e., relationships, those type of things that you don't think about as a child, but they do kind of come up as you grow up. Like that's just the way things work. Now, and that's why I'm saying with the whole filler argument, sometimes for us, it's whether or not the filler serves a purpose. But I am of the idea that if it serves the overarching purpose, the filler is fine. I.e., if it is an exploration manga and you are exploring other places and meeting new people and seeing their culture, that lines up with One Piece. With Naruto, it is an action first. It is action first, world building later. Type of, you get what I'm saying? Like, we're not sitting there like, oh, I can't wait for them to go to the village hidden in the mist. No, you want to see fighting. You want to see Naruto go mad and lose himself to the Nine-Tailed Fox. That is what is interesting to us. The fighting aspect. We don't care about Goku going to like the, fifth dimension or the fifth reality or whatever. We just care about him throwing hands and how cool that scene looks. You get what I'm saying? So filler can have a place in anime and manga. I mean, let's be real, it's mostly in anime. As long as it is used to explore, or build up either the characters, if it is a character-driven story, which a lot of action mangas are, like, for instance, JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. It is 100% on the characters. As in, you are interested in it because of the characters. You don't care about the world. The world is interesting, don't get me wrong. But the point is the characters. You care about the characters. You care about who dies and who lives. You only care about that stuff because, again, you assume that it is our world, but just with a supernatural twist to it. Versus One Piece, where it is an exploration, so the world takes the forefront and the characters, still important, kind of take a back seat. Which is why we feel some characters don't get the development that they need or don't get the time or attention or screen light. I mean, heck, look at Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball is now focusing more so on Vegeta and Goku. So, again, it is less on the exploration. I think that's another reason why I've been kind of pushing away from there, because one of my biggest gripes with Super is that they're trying to bring back the Earthlings. Like, you're trying to bring them back into the forefront and saying, hey, these guys still have and serve a purpose. And we know that's not true. Goku and Vegeta are the only ones with quote-unquote unlimited potential because they are Saiyans. Because they're not Earthlings. They live on Earth, but they're not from Earth. They're not born of Earth. Earthlings are born of Earth. They really didn't have much of a part in the Cell Saga. They did, but not much. They definitely didn't really have much of a part in the Buu Saga, mind you. And in Super, it's like, oh, we're trying to force them into a role that they're not meant to play. You are fighting literal people who are using God Ki. And they're like, they hype up God Ki so much. And it's like, well, how strong is it really? Because if you're saying God Key isn't that strong and Krillin is able to, combat it, then is it really that strong? Because Krillin doesn't stand a chance against Goku, Vegeta, or Trunks, or Goten, or Gohan when they're Super Saiyan. Let's just being honest. Definitely not Super Saiyan 2, and definitely not Super Saiyan 3. But he can, quote unquote, stand a chance when it's God. Anywho, I like to step on that landmine a little bit. And another gripe I have, even more so, and I think this is another thing that kind of pushed me off of it too, is that, when it focuses on the characters, you kind of focus on the things that the characters do that don't really make a lot of sense to me. I bring up the Whis example when the Earth got destroyed and Whis rounded back, and people are like, well, he said he would never do it again. And I'm of the camp of, then he shouldn't have done it in the first place. The Earth was destroyed in GT, and they had to get the Dragon Balls. It was destroyed in the Buu saga. And they had to use Dragon Balls to wish everything back to normal. It wasn't the end of the story if the Earth was destroyed. So Whis didn't have to intervene. He didn't have to do anything. Like, literally, you have people in Otherworld, because Otherworld doesn't mean anything either. You can cross over from the Otherworld into the real world and do what you want to do. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. And then you have Bulma, who's like able to slap Beerus, who's like the god of destruction, the most powerful being in this universe other than Whis. But Bulma's just able to hit him. And remind you, when Chi-Chi slapped Super Buu, he didn't feel it, but he turned her into chocolate and killed her immediately. That, to me, irks me to no end. Like, you are a character that has no power, no strength, no ki, none of that. You do have ki, but it's weak. But you're able to slap a god of destruction to where Goku couldn't even land a punch on. In the beginning, of course. But it's like, and people, they'll say, oh, it's for the gags, it's for the gags. Well, why is it that when Chi-Chi slapped Super Buu, it wasn't funny? Because he wasn't laughing and he killed her immediately. How much funnier would it be if Beerus was like, oh, you try to slap me? He just erased her then and there. I'm just saying. That's just me. I think that would be a more interesting story if it unfolded like that. That would give Vegeta, because they use that in the Future Saga, like, oh, Goku, I killed your son and wife, in this reality. And Goku's like, no, and it's like, but Goku, you really have no connection to this universe. This is a whole nother timeline that they ultimately erased. Like, all that you were upset about and, used for fuel didn't even matter at the end, because the whole timeline was erased and it was done by Zeno and not them. So them being there made absolutely no difference or no, anything at all. So, anywho, when it comes to that, you have to pick your camp. Either you're going to focus hard set on the characters or you're going to hard set on the world. Because both can't be built up that well together. I'm not saying that it can't be, but you're going to focus on one or the other. Because I think the places in One Piece are very interesting. The characters that are built from that environment are interesting too, because they match the environment. I.e., if it's an island where it's like, it rains magma and they have devices or means to counteract that, that's interesting to me. Like when they went to Sky Island and it's like, well, we use the clouds for different things. Like we cut the clouds out and we use them for furniture. That doesn't make sense to me, but it's interesting. Like, I don't know the world. I don't know how, strong the clouds are. They have their own interesting ecosystem, their own animals. That's interesting to me. I don't necessarily remember the characters from the Sky Island, but I remember Sky Island, and I can kind of draw conclusions. Oh, this character was there. This character was there. Enel was there. Like, I can draw those conclusions. But ultimately, like, if you ask me, if you ask me to recall all the characters from Alabasta arc, not going to happen. Just not going to happen. So, yeah, that's kind of my whole point or my take on this whole filler thing. If it serves a purpose, then it's fine. But if it does not bolster the story or bolster the characters, then it's nothing. Because filler also serves the purpose of trying to lengthen a story that doesn't necessarily need that. Like Shippuden was ruined for me, a lot of reasons, the war and all other stuff, but also because they used a lot of filler to kind of build up the story when all they needed to do was just do good storytelling. That's just me. But I think that's all I'm going to say on this. Hopefully you guys will see a together episode with all three of us again really soon. Like I said, I'll hopefully post this on Friday. But you guys let me know what you guys think. If you're listening to this on our podcast, make sure to share and follow. If you're listening to this on YouTube, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment down below what your thoughts are on filler episodes. Do you think they're necessary? Do you think they're annoying? Or do you think there's this middle ground where they can serve a purpose, like me, but it has to be done specifically? It has to be done in a very specific way, or it has to be done intentionally. But other than that, you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and peace out.